Marine Spatial Plan. What is it? What does it mean? And is Sri Lanka ready for it? UNDP's Ramita Vijayatunga in conversation with Didier Dogley and Professor Terney, Pradeep, Kumara. Over to Ramita.
To discuss about marine spatial planning, today we have two good experts with us. Mr. Didier Dogley, he was the Minister of Environment, Tourism and Climate Change in the government of Seychelles, and now he's a blue economy expert attached to the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. And the second expert we have today is Professor Terney Pradeep Kumara. He's the Professor of Oceanography attached to University of Ruhuna, and he's a marine biologist by profession. So, Didier, what is this marine spatial planning? How do you would like to introduce, or how do you like to give a summary introduction to marine spatial planning?
Well, thank you for the question. Marine spatial planning is about developing a plan. You know, just like everything that you would like to do, you have a plan. For the marine spatial planning, you have a number of actors. You have people that has got to do with renewable energy, with fisheries, with ports, and marine transport, and all these different sectors. So for you to be able to do that, then you need to have a consultative and participatory process led by government that at the end of the day produces a plan of how those different activities that the different sectors do within the marine space are properly planned, and everybody sees, you know, how they're going to go about their activities. And at the same time, you protect the health of the ocean. And the aim of doing that is for you to be able to improve how you manage your EZ or your space, whatever space that you've decided to do a plan for, so that at the end of the day, you can optimize economic returns, you can socially provide more employment to your people, and culturally, you protect your cultural assets and so on. So all this is done for the benefit of the people.
Yeah. So you mentioned about EEZ, or exclusive economic zone. Professor Terney, what are the types of resources we could observe in Sri Lankan exclusive economic zone?
So when we think about our exclusive economic zone, I think it starts from 12 nautical miles from the beach, right? Because from the beach to 12 nautical miles is our territorial waters. And beyond that, from 12 to 300 nautical miles zone is our exclusive economic zone. So we can't divide our resources from territorial waters to exclusive economic zone, but depending on the place, we can identify resources from top to bottom, and again from shore or near shore to offshore, right? So what we have is if I start from the water column. So water is again a big resource for us, and water and the chemicals we can extract from seawater is again a big resource for us. We had to look, especially the chlorine. The easiest thing is sodium we can extract. And the living animals in the seawater, started from jellyfish and even up to marine mammals, right? So why we talk about jellyfish and planktons? Because they are the small animals we never think of, but still they produce unknown chemicals that has very big potential to be developed as drugs, especially for heart ailments, and again for arthritis, and again for skin rashes. So almost the loss of new drugs are now coming from ocean, the area. So those planktons. Then we have fish resources. You know, we are mainly depending on fish for protein intake. And we can find food fish as well as ornamental fish, right? Ornamental fish, those are, we can use in ornamental trade, again a resource. And if you go further into offshore areas, marine mammals. Those are very much economically significant, at the same time economically also significant, because we can, depending on a whale watching industry, and again some countries they still hunt marine mammals. Therefore they are important for us from water column perspective. But if you go from water column from top to bottom as a vertical tour from top to bottom, we can find on the sea floor, we can find a number of shipwrecks. Right? Those are kind of resources we are having because those are now our kind of old monuments, and that really tells us our whole maritime history. And they have cultural values as well as ecological values also, because those shipwrecks, they provide a nice feeding, breeding grounds for marine animals. So therefore, we can observe high marine biodiversity, associated with shipwrecks. So we can use shipwrecks as a cultural or tourism perspective, and again we can use shipwrecks as biodiversity perspective. And then we move into ocean floor, we can find number of marine minerals. So those deposit as larger clumps or spreading in larger areas, and those chemicals, they have been accumulated for maybe centuries. So we can extract them. Those are the available resources. For example, manganese nodules or other type of thorium or whatever marine minerals settle on ocean floor. And on the ocean floor, still again we can find other resources like untapped fisheries resources. For example, various kind of lobsters and octopuses, and again larger mussels. So those are untouched, because untouched means we have not identified them. Because of that, this unknownness, so since we have not identified those resources, we have not touched them. Still, there are some resources. And when we go from ocean floor to sub-bottom, is again oil and gas deposits we normally talk about. So those are the main marine resources we can find, but beyond that, the whole area we can use to extract renewable energy. So we know the very basic things are wave energy, tide energy, and again wind energy. But beyond that is a new energy source called OTEC energy, ocean thermal energy conversion. And we can extract energy from hydrothermal vents. Hydrothermal vents are superheated water coming out from ocean floor with lots of chemicals, especially sulfur. And again, we can extract energy from ocean biomass, right? So those are the renewable energy sources we can extract from ocean. And again, when we come to the beach, shoreline, from shoreline onwards, about 1 kilometer side, areas still associated with the ocean. Therefore, we can consider those areas as again ocean resources. Sand dunes or seagrasses, corals. So all are marine resources. So therefore, these are important basically on ecological point of view, very much important, culturally important, and again economically important, and as a research, those are marine living labs, right, laboratories. So lots of importance are there. The thing is the awareness about these ecosystems and the awareness about the resources we are having is a problem.
Yeah, just when you close your eyes and think about the resources we have in our land resources, and think about like what types of resources we would have in 8 times bigger or 23 times bigger area that we might have as ocean, we could think how rich we should be. So having all these different resources and different areas, petroleum, biodiversity, other resources, etc. Marine spatial planning must be a very difficult process. How to start with it, or how Seychelles started that process?
Yeah. First of all, the ocean today is the final frontier. Everybody's rushing to grab whatever's available out there. Now, if you don't do any planning, eventually you might lose quite a lot of the stuff that are out there, because you can't manage what you don't know and what you don't have a plan for. So for you to be able to manage it, you need to plan. You need to, first of all, get to know it, and then to plan how you're going to make use of that resources. In the case of Seychelles, we were very interested in protecting the environment, and we wanted to protect about 30% of our EZ, because we believe that protection is not only for nature and it's not only for climate change mitigation, because we know that the ocean sequesters a lot of tons of carbon. So, so it has got those benefits in having a part of your ocean that is protected. But we also know that those places act as replenishment zone. Now, what are replenishment zone? These are areas that basically you've put aside. After a time, the biodiversity that are there, the animals and fish and all the biomass that you have there, they keep on reproducing. And at some point, there's so much of it that it spills over in other areas. So it's like having a place that keeps on feeding the other areas with new material. So that was the main reason we wanted to protect the 30%. So, and then when we decided to protect the 30% and also raise money through debt swap for us to manage it, we found out that we could not do it using normal processes that we normally use to designate protected areas. So that's when we decided to use the Marine Spatial Planning as a tool for us to be able to better, first of all, agree on which are the areas that are going to be protected and which are the areas that are going to be used for economic activities.
What do you think, Terney, that how best we could get used to this marine spatial planning in Sri Lanka? Do we have any past experiences related to this? Can we move ahead?
Yeah, in our context, I think we had number of discussions happen regarding marine spatial planning. But the beauty of this, discussion and having Didier on board is that we are sharing the same ocean, and we are neighbors, right? And getting support and getting ideas from Seychelles is very easy because we have the same mindset. So it's easy for us to learn from them and get ideas from them because the role is now moving. Right? We don't need to invent the role again, the wheel again. Therefore, in our case, I think marine spatial planning as a tool to manage our ocean environment, it was understood by a number of scientists. Some managers discussed that, and it went even to some top level. It went, but nobody take it as a a tool you can use to prosper our country. But fortunately, at present, the government has taken this initiative and. Now countries we have got the blessing of, even from the political blessings is there. So now our main task should be to understand our ocean ecosystem first and what we have and take all the available information, and with the support of Didier and Seychelles Marine Spatial Planning lessons, I think we have to start planning our ocean environment, because once we plan it, so then we know what we have and we know what we need. So then we can market it, we can protect it, we can manage it, we can even extract some untapped resources, and it means we can get more benefits from our ocean environment. So that's the whole beauty of the whole concept. Therefore, we had discussions, yes, but they did not come to a material. It didn't materialize, just discussions. But from this point onward, I really do believe, I'm so confident that we can explore this marine spatial planning tool to make full use of our ocean. Full use means full sustainable use, and extract the maximum benefit from the ocean. At the same time, reserve huge amount of ocean area for future generations.
What are those benefits that we could achieve through spatial planning? So that what type of easy hanging fruits?
Well, there are three main categories of benefits you can get. The first benefit is for the ecological and health of the marine space, because the marine space is under a lot of pressure now as we develop from pollution and all sort of activities that is stressing the whole ocean space. So the first one is that you will be able to identify exactly where your high value biodiversity areas are. You will be able to manage it. You will be able to map it out and say exactly which are the areas that are important for you to protect. The second thing is you can reduce the number of conflicts that are happening between human and the high value biodiversity areas. And secondly, there is the economic value. And the economic is, first of all, it's about, you will be, as a government, you will be able to tell investors exactly where they can invest their money. Because with the map, with the atlas, you will be able to tell the investors exactly what are the areas that can be used for aquaculture if he wants to invest in aquaculture. Or if he wants to invest in renewable energy, you will be able to say these are the areas that are designated for that kind of activity. And thirdly, you'll be able also to streamline the whole process, because you will be able to tell the person where to do what. And instead of beating about in the dark, you'll be able to say exactly what is required, whether that activity will require an EIA or SEIA, or whether it won't need any conditions. You can just go ahead and do it. And you can then reduce also the conflicts between the different users, economic users of your space, marine space, so that you optimize resources, the benefits from the resources that you get. And then thirdly, it's about the cultural and spiritual. Professor Terney has spoken about cultural, about shipwrecks and so on. And, you are an ancient civilization, goes back many years. So there's a number of very important spiritual sites and cultural sites that needs to be protected, and you'll be able to map them, and everybody will know where they are. So these are the areas that needs to be put aside and protected. So everybody will be on the same page, and you will be able to move together, as a team, and therefore build a synergy so that you deliver on your goals, economics, environmental, and cultural, spiritual.
But if I take from this point, because in MSP we always talk about protection, but we are not totally focusing on protection, because in MSP we protect only 30% or less than 30%, but rest we exploit with sustainable plans. So when we exploit, we know what are the resources we are having and how much the resources we are having. So then we can easily, as he mentioned, Didier mentioned, we can invite investors, because at the moment we don't have any idea about the resources we have. We know about fisheries resources, we know some coastal resources, but in the ocean resources we don't know. The second thing is that in Sri Lanka, the knowledge about the ocean is still almost zero in most of the places. We know about beaches, we know about the horizon, we have some cultural, some aesthetic ideas about the ocean, but the real ocean resources and the ocean uses is totally unknown, even though we are an island nation. But this MSP program, through awareness, through media, right, this will spread the news about the importance of ocean for us. That will lead to protect that, at least to reduce pollution, and people will think about ocean more. But at the moment, we are almost terrestrial based. All the plans, all the even job opportunities, we fight for terrestrial land based jobs. But the opportunities we are having in the ocean is totally left aside. So this MSP program, the plus point, another plus point I'm seeing is that this will open the eyes of our Sri Lankans, especially younger generations. They will think more about the ocean. They will plan more, right? They will at least plan become scientists or people who really are working on this field. So those are the two options, the benefits I think we can gain from the MSP program.
I think when you touch upon this awareness issue, I heard that Seychelles had more than 400 meetings, discussions to arrive or to develop this. I think that process itself must have led to a common consensus building and kind of idea generation on how best we could move forward as a nation, how best we could achieve prosperity through using our ocean resources. Any idea how that contributed to your national planning processes afterwards, as a result of Marine Spatial Planning?
Yeah, the consultative process is one thing, and then there's the other awareness campaign that was done around it, which is another subset of what we did to engage people. Getting people involved and getting them to participate is key to get ownership at the end of the day and to get them to agree, to whatever product at the end of the day you produce. The consultative process, as usual, it takes time. Anybody who's been involved in any negotiation would know that, if you are deciding to do it alone, like the old Chinese proverb say, if you go alone, you will go very fast. But if you want to go with more people, you have to go according to their pace. You have to adapt according to their pace. And that's why it takes so long. But at the end of the day, you're much stronger because you involve those people. And they also will learn through the process, and they will be able to contribute to the process on the long run. So for us, this was vital. And this is something that is critical to Marine Spatial Planning, is that there must be participation and consultation throughout the process so that everybody is involved in the planning process. And secondly, for those who are not directly, because you can't put everybody at the table, you can put the representative, but you need to inform the others also. And one thing that you need to do is you need to have an awareness campaign whereby you use internet, you use radio, TV, infographics, you do posters and so on, so that you get the message out there, so that the nation as a whole understand what is you are trying to do. And they also provide that support and say, yeah, this is what we want, at the end of the day.
Yeah. But I mean, if we take the hard sciences, the oceanography and, the related hard sciences proportion of the process, how do you rate, like what proportion belongs to those hard sciences and what proportion belongs to the soft areas like communication, advocacy, coordination, those areas? I mean, what are the balances?
They are both important. You can't do one without doing the others, because you need to get the people on board.
Yeah.
This is critical, because you are not doing an MSP for you or for the government.
Right.
You are doing an MSP for the people of Sri Lanka. So they need to know what you are doing. They need to understand, and they need to participate and engage with the process. Then you have won at the end of the day. But if you do it on your little corner and you get an expert to come and they'll produce a plan, but that plan doesn't belong to the people of that country. It's a plan that belongs either to the government or it belongs to that team of experts who did it. But the other side is as important, because MSP is based on science. It's based on concrete data. So you need the experts. You need the people who knows the stuff for them to be able to make the data, the information available, so that you can produce something which is credible and not just anything that sometime down the line will not work.
Yeah.
Will just fall apart.
I think, Terney, you have been involved in so many community consultations, and you know about the hard science or the data availability related issues as well. So going one step from what Didier mentioned, what type of challenges, what type of barriers we may face in Sri Lanka when we do the MSP?
Yeah, in MSP, as he correctly mentioned, that we need solid data and accurate data. For that, we need some science. But when we work with the communities, we can categorize data into 3 different levels. First one is citizen science. They go and take some information and they just map the areas, and from their observation they take some information, but they are still related to science, but these are very basic information. Those are needed, right? We can't just ignore them. Then we have middle layer. In the middle layers, the resolution is a bit higher, But still, they are very good data. Those we can use in especially in management purposes we can use. The third layer is the hard and very strong science. So for that, these are very highly very expensive, very costly, and very sophisticated equipments are used. So all these data levels are available in agencies, in some NGOs, and even some village groups. The information are available. If not, we can train them, especially for citizen science. We can easily teach them how to do that, right? To map their own resources. So we can take all this in our mapping, because to map we need information. So the information come in these three levels. Yes, but from government agency perspective, I know the information they are having is from second to third categories. But most of the government agencies, they have second categories, but universities and other research agencies have third category information. So once you pool them, we can take a clear picture, right? At the same time, we can easily pool second and third categories. We can't take first category, the citizen science and data into that others, but we can pull them. So therefore, to make our MSP, Marine Spatial Planning, a success one, it should be based on correct and real and maybe accurate data, right? Therefore, we should encourage scientists in the country to explore about this. If we don't have those information, we can train some people. It will take some time. If not, we can train our younger generations, at least in the future, to become marine scientists and take some information. Because in Sri Lanka, the country is large, but if you count marine scientists in the country, real marine scientists is less than 20 or maybe less than 10, right? The real marine scientists. Others, they talk about the ocean, but being on boats and others, right? So those issues are there. So therefore, I think to have a proper MSP, Marine Spatial Planning, we have to mainly focus on correct and accurate data and scientific data. For that, we should have some sort of preparation, right? Guide other agencies to go for that. But until we get those data, we can still, based on the available information from society groups, maybe some government agencies, and again from research agencies in the country.
That is from the data perspective, the hard science perspective. What about our capacity to engage with other stakeholders, all the other key stakeholders, and do this consensus building and agreeing to one particular set of activities? I think that.
Yeah, in our case, that's a challenging thing, to take all the
Is that was
players.
that the same in Seychelles?
Yeah.
Same everywhere. But still, if a country need a real marine spatial planning, we have to be open. Even the developers and even the agencies come from protection angle, and agencies coming from management angle, all should expose themselves and tell their real stories, tell their real plans. Then we can understand each other. So then we can compromise where we need. If there's a compromise is needed, we can do that, because all happens through discussions. These are kind of stakeholder discussions and consensus. So for that, I think from our, if we are to lead that MSP program, we should be transparent, right? Why we do that, right? What's the need for why we do that, and it's a need for the country. We have to convince them. So once we convince them about the need of this MSP, then we can tell that, okay, we are not to stop you, but we are trying to put you in a real track, right? So in that sense, I think through this process, if we can really take this process forward, I think we can take all the people on board. But there will be conflicts, but we should not accuse each other. We should take all the plus or minuses or whatever the comments given from them in more positive way, and answer accordingly, right? So we can accommodate all, but if we can do that process maybe a couple of months and several times, they will understand that they are not marginalized.
Seychelles was one of the pioneering countries started MSP, and you yourself mentioned that you had to sail while building the ship. So when you compare the challenges you faced and the opportunities Sri Lanka is having now, what do you think? What are the things we could capitalize on, and what are the resources we could build our journey?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you have a clear process of how you can do it. First of all, government coming out with a very clear policy document that explains what it wants to achieve, why they're doing it, so that everybody understand, what are the aspirations and the ideas that government would like, to put forward. And then the process, like today, we started already discussing with the key stakeholders. So right at the beginning, they've been involved. They know about what the intentions are. So they can start looking forward and planning how they're going to engage. Seychelles, we started a little bit a roundabout way, but you can start right at the beginning, get it right, and then plan the whole roadmap, the whole timelines, and have a clear plan of how you're going to implement it. This is something we didn't have, and you have also people like me who's been in that process and who understand the process that can help you and guide you how you can do it and make it work. And also maybe you won't need so many years that we needed. So there's clear lessons that has been learned from Seychelles and globally that Sri Lanka can learn from and also profit from in your particular process that you're going to start now soon. So I think you're a much stronger and better position than we were when we started.
And I think given the economic and social circumstances where Sri Lanka is in, I think this is a very opportune time to start this process and go forward, because if we could get more, kind of a boost to restart our economic engines through marine resources, I think it would be wonderful. So you mentioned about the different stakeholders, different lessons, different, potential conflicts, etc., etc. So I think from the lessons of Seychelles and many other countries, it is very clear that there should be a proper coordination mechanism. So what's your lessons? I think it's for both of you. How best we could move about, how best we could do the coordination of this process?
Yeah, you need to have the governance in place and also the institutional framework. Now, what does that mean? It's all big words, So what it really means is you need to have a system in place, how decision is taken, So you might need to have an executive committee where you have top-level government sitting on it to make decisions. And they report to cabinet or at a higher level. And then you need to have a steering committee where you have technical people who sit on the committee, and they represent all the stakeholders and they participate in the discussions. And they can be supported by technical people. And that's where you need to have an organization, be it an agency or an authority that falls probably under the president's office, properly staffed with enough staff and financial resources so that they can do the work. Because they are the ones who are going to coordinate and they're going to make sure that it gets implemented. So you need to have both the decision-making system, which is the governance, and then you need to have the institutional framework that does the work, the secretariat that gets to do the nitty-gritty on the ground. So both of them are key to the whole process.
Yeah. Finally, what are the top 3 things that Sri Lanka should focus on within next 1 to 2 years to get this MSP started? Any expert views, any ideas about that?
No, I think once you get the political will, once the government has said, let's go and do it, the president has given an order, I don't think there's anybody who's going to say, no, President, wait, maybe, No, it doesn't work like that. The once government has taken a decision to get something implemented, and I guess the ministers and all the senior staff needs to then get the ball rolling, create the enabling environment, get the resources. I understand in the budget meeting already, the financial resources were identified and all that. So the next thing is really start creating the team, the coordination team, so that they can get the work done. And then you can create the committees and so on that will help with the decision-making process. But I think the ball is already, the bullet has already left. So it's just a matter now of whoever's given the responsibility to get this done for him to start doing the work.
Thank you. Terney?
From my understanding, I think the government blessing is the first thing, right? So if they take the ball really hard and really strongly, I think we can start the ball running. The second thing is the dedicated staff. Dedicated means the staff with proper backgrounds to be placed in the real setup. At the same time, the commitment from our stakeholders. So if you can combine these three aspects into one single program, I think we can make this MSP a reality in very reasonable time period. So since we are now almost in the same process, I think I am so positive and so very much looking forward that everything will be becoming lined in a very short time, maybe in a couple of months' time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Didier. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for the shared information.